All right, give everyone just a few minutes to get on here. Try to make sure my stuff is all in the screen. Find my broadcast on my computer over here, so make sure everybody can see me and hear me. And back to my AirPod. Hopefully that's still good sound for you. So thank you for joining me this evening. My name is Christy Hillock and I am with CJ Card Creations here in Salt Lake City or Murray, Utah. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and I'm so grateful that you're here with me again this Thursday. I have been really enjoying coming to you every Thursday evening and I hope you're enjoying it too. So, just a few things, whether you're watching the replay or watching with me right now. I just wanted to remind you about the Expressions in Color Paper Pumpkin Kit. Hey, how are you all? It's so nice to see you. The Expressions in Color comes with 2 ink spots instead of the usual 1, and it coordinates with the Expressions in Ink suite, which is gorgeous, and just this really artistic watercolory kind of look. It coordinates with 3 of the new in colors that just started June 1st, and it also coordinates with Bumblebee, which is one of the in colors that started last year and will continue through this annual catalog. So this deadline is June 10th. If you want it, you should definitely subscribe. I think it's going to be really beautiful. It does make 9 cards, if I'm remembering correctly, but of course I didn't write that part down. Oh, yep, right there, 9 cards. Okay, so there's that. If you haven't already grabbed your, oh, hey, Renee, thanks for joining me. If you haven't already grabbed your United Through Creativity digital download, make sure you do that as well. And I'll tell you, I have had no time to craft between being out of town for Memorial Day and just the end of school and everything. So I have these beautiful sentiments and images for coloring or just leaving as line images, and I have done not a thing. So hopefully next week I'll have something fun to show, but Joe's going to be out of town this weekend, so it's entirely likely that I will just be fried by Monday morning. So anyway, starting on June 1st, they released the retiring list from the mini catalog. So if there's anything that you wanted out of this catalog, you have until June 30th, but everything is while supplies last. So don't wait because things are flying off the shelf. I know for a fact that that beautiful cactus product medley that of course I'm totally blanking on everything about it at the moment. Here we go, flowering cactus. This went fast, so don't miss the things that you really love. So there's that, and this is the annual catalog, and if you don't have a catalog and you don't have a demonstrator and would like one, I would love to help you. I'd love to get a catalog to you, and I will include this set of tabs that divides up the lovely catalog so that it's a little more manageable. So that's everything there. The kits collection also started on the 1st of June. And so this is, if you've never really crafted before, or if you like to travel and you want something quick and easy to take with you, we've got our kits. Some of them include stamping and some of them are really just assembling. They include all of your adhesives, your stamps, your ink. So if there's stamping involved. So this is just a sample of what is available. The collection will change as things get sold out. They'll add new ones and that kind of thing. So always just go check out the current selection at stampinup.com/kits. But I really think that this is great. And some of them are actually old paper pumpkins that were really popular. So if you wanted a shot at those, that's another way to get them. And then it also has information about Paper Pumpkin and prepaid plans if that was something you were interested in. So that I think is everything. So today I am just going to be doing the Art in Bloom bundle. This is a really exciting bundle. not just because it has two-step stamping with the photopolymer stamps. So two-step is where you stamp once and then you stamp on top of them with the color splash image. So it gives it kind of a watercolory look. I think the scripty fonts are really gorgeous and the sentiments are really sweet. And then these two stamps are kind of just out of the blue, and I've had some fun playing with those. Um, and then they come with these dies, which I've got half of them pulled out because I'm using them for this. And actually, I think maybe I'm missing one, but you know, whatever, it's here somewhere. Okay, so that's what I'm using. The other really cool thing about this bundle is that it's a hybrid bundle. So it includes the stamps, the dies, and this embossing folder. And hopefully you can see that. I know this light reflects really brightly off of certain things, so maybe that'll make it better. So it's hybrid because you can actually put this die in the embossing folder, put cardstock in, close it up, and run it right through, and it will emboss and cut out all at the same time. So super fun. Just a lot of different things that you can do with the, you know, having that extra feature to it. I'm also going to be doing my June class to go with this bundle, so I just wanted to give you a little sneak peek of the bundle tonight. This card will not be included in the class, but this is what we are going to be making. So it's a little bit of a fun fold, and then just the sentiment on the inside. So I actually made this following along with another demonstrator's mystery stamping because I just love mystery stamping. I have so much fun every time I do it with any demonstrator that I've found that's offering it. So I am going to change it up just a little bit for the one that I'll make for you tonight. So that is pretty much everything that I needed to tell you, so we'll just get started. All of the measurements are in the description of this video, so if you want to refer back to it, it's all right there just to make it a little bit easier for you. So I've got all of my different pieces already cut here. So you started with just a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of polished pink, which is one of our new in colors. And then I'm using the True Love Designer Series paper again because the black and white just goes with everything. It's just perfect. So this piece is 4 by 5 1/4. And then this is another piece of the polished pink, and its measurement is 3 by 4 1/4. And then this is a different pattern of that same Designer Series paper pack, and it's 2 3/4 by 4. And then I also cut 2 3/4 by 4 piece of basic white, and that's where I'm adjusting the design just a little bit. And then I also have this 1 inch by 5 1/2 inch strip of polished pink. I'm glad you like my nails. I'm really having fun with them, although I don't know how long I'm going to be able to keep going and doing that just because time and money and I don't know, but it makes me feel a lot better about putting my hands out in front of everybody. So it's been fun. So with this 1 inch strip, what I want to do is just take it with my Stampin' Trimmer and come over to the 4 1/16 inch mark. So a little bit of a detail there, but just going to score it there. And as always, make sure that you're using your scoring blade and not your cutting blade because that would be sad. So now I'm just going to kind of burnish this line, and I cleaned again. So yeah, I don't know where my bone folder ended up. So we'll just use my fingernails today. So what I want to do is put this just right across the center of the larger piece of Designer Series paper. And then I'm going to flip that over and just do a little bit of liquid glue on the small flap. And that's going to be to the left side of your Designer Series paper. So again, we'll just line that up and fold it over here. So the glue and the short flap are going on the back side of the Designer Series paper. And that may or may not be perfectly centered, but That's fine. It's good enough. All right, so once I've got that done, now I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to my card base. And that card base is just a quarter sheet of the cardstock. So it's a half of a normal card base because of the way this fun fold kind of works out. And my glue is running low, so it always acts crazy, but hopefully it will hold. So this will come over here. So I actually took a paper pumpkin kit down to my in-laws this past weekend because we're going to be down there for several days, and sometimes it just feels like there's not a whole lot to do. And of course, I never touched it. We were just busy. It was gorgeous weather. We were outside, and I actually got to go hiking in Zion one day. Left the kids with the in-laws, and I took Joe and his brother to an entry point. And then I drove around to their exit point and I hiked down into Zion. Just, I think it was probably a little over an hour round trip for me. And then just hiked back out. And Joe and Jordan did a half marathon just for grins, because those two are crazy. So, I guess that's, according to Joe, a whole lot easier than the 38 miles he'd run the weekend before. So, whatever. Running is just not my bag. So I'm just using my seal to adhere this piece of designer series paper right onto that smaller piece of polished pink. And I use seal and the liquid glue kind of interchangeably. A little bit. It depends on if I think I'm going to need wiggle room or not. And as you saw, I did need to be able to wiggle my larger piece of designer series paper, I think, because the flap threw me off just a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just using my thumbnail here as a mark for where this flap needs to start and end. All right, and then this is going to be centered on the card front, and I use centered loosely because I make no promises. Seal also actually gives you a little bit of wiggle room, but I tend to not trust that quite as much. So yeah, I assume that you mean that their half marathon is pretty impressive. And yeah, they were a little bit gimpy the next day, but not as bad as I would have been. So yeah, definitely. They're two pretty tough guys. And it was not the popular part of Zion. So for one thing, I dropped them off at 6:30. So that was crazy early for anybody. But it also just is not the main canyon, and so it's really nice that they didn't encounter too many people. And I actually only saw a few people, and so I'm going to go ahead and stamp in Memento Black now. This is just the flower outline image, and so it's interesting. These three flowers are all connected, and I guess that's probably done just so that the die works easily. But the watercolor filler stamps are not connected to each other. So, all right, so I'm going to stamp this down. And Mom, I didn't tell you this, but I probably should have thought about it before I went, or Joe could have said something before I went. But it's a mountain lion friendly area because, it's sort of mountainous. I think the elevation at the point that I started is 6,000 feet or something like that. So as I'm coming back out of my hike, I actually bothered to stop and read the signs. And it talks about, all the things that I know, like not hiking alone and so on and so forth. I'm just going to do all of my memento stamping in one go. So I'll also get my sentiment on this little banner piece. So yeah, it talks about not hiking alone and how to act if you see a mountain lion, which is not what my you know, my impulse would be. So I'm really glad that the only nature that I saw was a stink bug and a few birds. So next time maybe I'll take a friend. But so that says you're a rare find, and I just thought that that's a very sweet sentiment for a dear friend, or a spouse or sibling. So now that I have these stamped and I've given them a minute to dry, I'm going to take my Stampin' Blends, and I'm just going to use Polished Pink and Soft Succulent, and I'm going to color in these images before I cut them out. So when I use blends, there's the bullet tip and the brush tip, and I almost always use the bullet tip because I have better control with it, and it's just a little bit sturdier. So this will take just a few minutes, and you don't have to be terribly precise about it, but kind of the way I like to do it is fill the whole thing in with the light blend first, and then I'll come back in. And since these are alcohol markers, they do dry pretty quickly, so you don't want to work in too large of an area. So I'm just kind of going over those lines. Um, yeah, that's why I didn't tell you at the time, Mom, because I figured you wouldn't be so jazzed about, you know, my realization and my less than brilliant behavior. But, you know, I also was a little bit surprised that there weren't more people out because it was highs in the, I don't know, 80s or 90s or something. So you don't want to wait too late to get your hikes going. But anyway, it was really beautiful. And if you go over and look at my my personal page, I changed my cover image, I think is what they call it, to be the area where I was hiking. So it's stunning. So yeah, I don't usually broadcast a whole lot of what we're up to, partly just because I worry about people seeing what I'm doing on Facebook and realizing that my house is empty, and partly because I'm just more of a stalker than a poster. But anyway, all right, so this first flower is just about done, and I'm just blending in the dark to the light. And sorry, these are so new that it's a little squeaky, but yeah, we'll just get all of these colored. Had I been super prepared, I would have already colored some of them so you didn't have to watch. But that's a level of preparation that my life just does not lend itself to. So but it was fun. I saw some red penstemons growing, and a couple of other things. There was what I think is a prickly pear cactus. I don't know. And then some other flowers too that I sent my friend who's really into kind of more native planting and water-wise kind of stuff. So she wasn't sure quite what it was, but it was really pretty. And just the sunrise and the clouds was gorgeous. I don't know, it was really nice to be out of the house and by myself and just doing kind of what I wanted to do. So, oh, Janie, I'm glad that you're enjoying watching me color and squeak away. Um, there are some people who say that they lay down the dark color first and then use the light. And I've tried it both ways, and honestly, I really don't think that there is a huge difference. It's just kind of personal preference. And you can always go back and add more color too. So like here, I'm not super happy with how it blended in, so we'll see if I can't make that just a little better. And you can see the backside, it does bleed through, but again, because they're alcohol based, they dry really quickly. So that bleed is typically not a problem unless you're doing something where you want to be able to see the backside as well. And I recently pulled out my watercolor pencils just to try something different from the blends. And yeah, they're a little more complex and you have to actually have some artistic ability. And the blends are just a lot more forgiving. So that reminded me of all the reasons I really like blends. And I've got Stampin' Write markers too, which are the same ink as what's in just our regular ink pads. And those are good for certain things. Like I love that you can color on a stamp if you want to have multiple colors on a single image. But they definitely leave streaky marks as you're coloring, especially, you know, if it's a larger area, you can really tell. And I may act like a 5-year-old sometimes, but I don't want my cards to look like a 5-year-old made them, so I'm just going to stick to my blends for most things. But you cannot color on stamps with the Stampin' blends the way you can with the Stampin' Write. So definitely one advantage to those Stampin' Write markers. Yeah, when the blends first came out a few years ago, I mean, just in general, I think I'm probably more of a late adopter than anything. So I was trying really hard not to jump on the bandwagon, because to buy the whole set in one go is, I mean, it's spendy for sure. So you kind of want to pick certain basic colors. You know, you always want a yellow and a blue and a pink. And then I've actually found that I use the browns quite a bit, which is interesting. Certainly not what I would have expected, but if you're trying to ground an image, you can just color under it, just, you know, with a little bit of a squiggle of the crumb cake. And then certainly if you're coloring people, you want to be able to do some of the different flesh tones. So you're likely to end up with the whole collection if it's something that you enjoy, but definitely just picking a few basics to start with is a good idea. So the last thing that I need to do with my pink is just fill in the centers here. And then I feel like those blended out pretty well, so we'll call that good. And I'm going to take my light soft succulent and fill in these leaves. Even with these, you know, we can do the pre-order as demonstrators, so we get access to all the products a month before everybody else can buy them. And I just didn't want to jump on and buy all the blends because, I don't know, see what I can make do with, I guess, not feel like I need all the things. But certainly it is fun to have a good stash of all the things. So I can't remember if I actually gave credit for this layout when I was showing you all what I'm doing, but the demonstrator that I watched for this one is Tiffany Almeida, and she's on my Uplines team as well. And I actually got to meet her. She lives in Washington State. I got to meet her when I went to Onstage a few years ago, and so even though, you know, we've only met once, it just feels a little more personal to follow her and case some of her designs. So I'm going to bring up my Big Shot, and I'm going to try really hard not to jostle the camera too terribly much. But hopefully we can just run this through once. So if there's a lot of shaking, it won't be for long. All right, so I'm going to put this on here. And you will notice with this die that there is more of a halo than our other dies. And I think that that is just because of that hybrid feature. When you're putting it in the embossing folder, it just needs a little more space. So I'm going to line up all of my leaves as well, and then just run this through once. And this leaf I don't know why I struggle with which way the die is supposed to go on this thing, but anyway, there we go. So put that top plate on, and back to the not being an early adopter, you know, we do have the full-size machine, and Janie, I think you have the full size, and I am just determined to work this thing until it just doesn't cut or emboss anything anymore. So Renee, I'm glad you got cards. I feel so bad. I was going to send you a card, and yeah, life, I don't know. The last 2 weeks, like I said, have just been not what I had planned. So I'm glad that you got other cards. That's really fun. And I did get the crumble cookies like I told you I was going to, and they are pretty good. So if you have not tried crumble before, you should definitely do so if they're in your area. And that company, I want to say, started in Utah, but they have grown like crazy. So there's definitely a location in Lubbock and just all sorts of random locations across the country. So that's just a little adhesive that I'll clean up later. So my game plan here for the layout is something like this. And then I am going to stick my little leaves in. And the way this fold is, it doesn't matter if you stick over, but if you do, you just want to make sure that like there's no adhesive under this bit of the leaf that would stick to the back panel. So I think we'll probably just do something like that. So I'm going to take these off now that I have the general idea of what I want to do. And for this, you're right, they are like crack cocaine. I look every Sunday night when they announce what the new flavors are, and yeah, there are definitely more crumble weeks than non-crumble weeks, unfortunately. So the really bad thing is that Jonah gets all excited about them the first day that we have them. And so he'll eat a couple of sections, and then Joe might eat a section once, and then I eat the rest. So yeah, I do try to not have them all the time. But Joe can't help himself when it comes to salty stuff. And I mean, I can have a bag of chips sitting in the house for 6 months. They'll go stale before I'll finish them. So I guess we each have our vices. So I'm just using my glue dots that are on a roll because it's a whole lot easier than using the paper pumpkin glue dots when you're trying to do a live, and you know, I just don't really want to fiddle with the backings and everything. So I think for this, I'm going to stick it on the front of the image so that I can just tuck it in where I want it. And that looks pretty good. So now that I've got that on here, I'll go ahead and just adhere it. I'm glad you had a good birthday, Renee. Did you get to do anything else fun? I feel like I always looked forward to my birthdays when I was younger, even into my 20s and maybe early 30s. And now it's just like, just another day, but it's a little bit of a letdown because it's not the fun that it used to be. So, all right, so that is on here. And now what I'm going to do to change it up is actually just stick that on there. And I don't think there's any reason to pop it up. I'm not feeling super dimensionally today, so we'll just use a little bit of seal on the back of this guy. And I normally wouldn't use that much, but since there are kind of some different levels with those flowers, I want to make sure that I give it the opportunity to stick to something. So All right, so we've got that on there. And then the last thing that I'm going to do that's a little bit different from Tiffany's design is just stick this on the inside. So that there's space to write. I don't know. I don't like to have tons of space to write, but I do need a little. So that was the only thing that I didn't love about the original design. So when you opened hers, you just had your sentiment there. And I think this is a little more user-friendly. Certainly you can write on the back, or even just right below, as long as you kind of keep an eye on where the panel is. So there are my cards for tonight. I'm glad you got to have a good dinner at Abuelo's. Oh my gosh, that's my favorite Lubbock restaurant. So thank you for being here tonight. I have said that I will send a selection of 4 cards to anyone who shares my videos. And last week I had 4 people share, but I can only see 2 of them. So Pat, you are the lucky winner from last week. And for this coming week, if you decide to share, which I would really appreciate because it does boost my visibility, then please also make sure that you comment in the comments on the video that you shared so that I can see that and make sure that you get entered into the drawing for cards. So if you need any of these supplies or if you have other crafting needs, please shop with me. I'd really appreciate your business, and anything else that I can do to help you would be great as well. And I am so glad you were here, and I hope that you have a lovely rest of your evening. Okay, take care. I'll see you next week. Bye.